Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Marino Show. I'm really excited about our guest today, Omar Musa, who is a filmmaker, director, recently completed Izzy Cox Fighting the Devil, the documentary. It just premiered. Omar, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure, and I think we should start with some hot tea and go from there.
I'm all for that.
There you go. Let's do it.
The Marino Show.
All right, we have this guy. And it's like a loose tea if you want some.
Yeah, we can try that.
Yeah. Yeah, look at this golden color. It's just an idea came to my mind like last week, and I thought we could be sitting on the ground and just drinking tea and making the interview. We can have the dog just sitting with us. You have the books and then the poster and all that. You'll have like an eye level. Just right here.
I'm
This is
open to anything.
this is a beautiful Persian rug. We can just you know.
Totally love that.
Right, and here we're gonna start with some hot tea for today. This is for you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and this is for Sarah, our rock star today. All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.
You want to get yours, Sarah?
Cheers to Sarah. Yes,
Yay.
behind the camera.
Oh, this is really good.
Yes.
Omar, first of all, I want to talk about this documentary, which you finished shooting, or actually finished in March of 2020, right before the pandemic started. Recently had a premiere of the documentary. Izzy Cox, for those who don't know who she is, can you kind of give us some insight into who Izzy was?
Yeah, I would start like Izzy Cox was an Austin musician, and she was a brave woman who wanted to stand for herself and for all the women in the world. And she kind of translated that into beautiful lyrics and music that she performed by herself as a one-woman band in Austin, Texas, and so many places around the world.
And you originally started shooting this documentary, was it in 2014, or when did you start shooting it?
So here, I'm going to give the background story of the documentary. I had a gig in West Texas, in Odessa area, in 2014. And there was one music venue that I used to hang out at. It's called the Blue Max at that time. And it was like an underground music venue that will host musicians from all over the place, mostly musicians who are traveling through Midland, Odessa area, through West Texas, coming back from the West Coast toward Austin or the Northwest. And Izzy Cox was one of the people who stopped at the Blue Max in 2014, and I got an invitation from the owner, who was Erica Berry at that time, and she said, "We have a great musician coming over tonight. You should come over and hang out and check her out. I think you would be interested to see this." And yeah, we make it to the Blue Max, and Erica Berry was there. Gabriel Lubez, who is a close friend to Izzy, who had worked with her before too, was at the venue at that time. And that was the first time I met Izzy in 2014. And we had our first picture together. And Izzy continued her trip to Austin, Texas. And I stayed in Odessa after that for about 5 months. And then I came back to Austin. And we never connected. We just connected in social media. But we never talked in person. And it went all the way till 2016, when Izzy was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer already. And I get a phone call from my dear friend Gabriel Lubez in Odessa, and he said, "Hey, Izzy Cox is in the hospital, and she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Do you mind taking a camera, going to the hospital, and just shooting some footage with her?" We just want to talk to her and see how she feels today and what's going on with the pancreatic cancer. I took a camera and I went to Cedar Medical Center. And then the moment I walked into the room, Izzy was so happy to see me. I was so happy to see her. We connected and we talked a little bit. And we didn't even shoot anything that day because she wasn't feeling well and she wasn't ready for the camera, even though she's always ready for the camera. But she said, I don't feel well today. Do you mind if we shoot tomorrow? And I approached her with the idea and I said, hey, what do you think if we make a whole film about your story? You know, because we already knew at that time that she had 6 months to live. There wasn't much left. And I really wanted something to kind of lift her up and encourage her. And I don't know, I just felt this story needs to be documented. And she was all about it. She was open and she said yes. And 2 months later, we signed a contract and I became the director of Izzy Cox Fighting the Devil story. People start reaching out and trying to kind of support the project and supporting the idea that Izzy Cox's story needs to be documented. So I started receiving a whole lot of footage from people who have already worked with Izzy. And one of the first people that I got footage from was Gabriel Lopez, who sent me a 75 hours of footage that he shot on the road with Izzy. And that's kind of like represents and tell the actual, the raw, the real story of a traveling musician, you know, of a one-woman band who travels in a male-dominant industry. You know, when you talk about punk rock and rock and roll and underground scene, it's like, oh, what is this lady about? Holding a guitar and kicking a kick drum and singing by herself, you know. So that footage was really raw and added a lot of value to the documentary. And then I received a lot of footage from David Pruitt, which is Dave TV, and what is known as the father of the underground music scene in Austin. He has shot and a huge amount of footage with local musicians, and he sent me a big library of footage that he shot with Izzy at Austin Public Access TV, the Austin Music TV. So that's added a lot of value to the documentary as well. And then Ginny Ross from Australia, she met with Izzy in Melbourne when she was touring there, and she thought this is a great opportunity, and this lady needs to be documented as well. And she shot some footage with her, and she never got to complete a whole documentary about her, but she made a little short. But she had like a pretty good amount of videos with Izzy, and it was very valuable. It was very raw, and Izzy was kind of presented as a vulnerable human, and it looks so beautiful in these footage. And Ginny Ross actually is the director of the Australian Punk Revolution music documentary that she has been working on this for so many years. And I think she saw an opportunity with Izzy, and she sent me everything. Like 2 days later, was a whole Google Drive of folders, and yeah, that's how kind of like the whole archival idea of creating a documentary came together. And then I started shooting myself, and I interviewed a lot of people around Austin who have worked with Izzy, played with Izzy before, or they just want to kind of press their opinion about what is Izzy about in Austin, Texas, you know. And just like any other documentary, you know, it's a collection of archival footage, still pictures, and interviews that I conducted myself to kind of put this story together. So officially, we started in 2016 when she was in the hospital. In March 2017, she passed away, and I think this documentary for me personally became like a mission that I needed to complete, you know, just to share the message of love that Izzy always talked about, and to kind of put out there a representation or a role model for what women would go through in their life, or even any human. You know, I think we all go through these same trials and tribulations and struggle that Izzy has been through. But the only difference between me and Izzy is that she's willing to talk about it. She's open. She's vulnerable. You know, and it was an exciting journey. You know, working on a low budget documentary is not easy, and I tried to survive just by myself all the way until 2019 when Gabriel said, "Hey, man, I think you should do a crowdfunding. I think people would love the story, and somebody will pop up and support you on this." So I was always against the idea of crowdfunding, and I don't know, it's just something personal that I don't want to ask for money, but it's a community project, and without help, I can't do it by myself. You know, so we did the crowdfunding in 2019. I think it was September. And then we did like a huge event at Carousel Lounge, and we had like a full day event. About 10 to 15 bands from Austin would come over and just perform like from 12 o'clock noon all the way until 12 a.m. And it was a great event. And at that time, we got Marcy Winters, who is my executive producer, jumped in and supported me financially. And a lot of musicians around Austin too supported financially. And we were able to kind of raise, I think it was $21,000. And that money was kind of like the money that allowed me to kind of lock myself in my office and finish the documentary. So we got the money 2019, and by March 2020, I was completed the film and so excited and just so ready to show everybody what we have done. And then something happened in March 2020,
Right.
and we were not able to go anywhere with it. And we went, even personally myself, we went from full capacity, being busy, me and my team, to zero production. Like there was nothing out there.
Yeah.
And mental illness was just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't easy on anybody, especially if you work in the creative industry and you have nothing to create. You either go crazy or you go crazy. There's nothing else you can do, you know? So I waited. I didn't know what to do with the film. There was a lot of like, hey, let's just post it online. Let's just give it to everybody. But there was nothing happening. You know, I think the universe just wanted me to wait. Everything was kind of on hold until I met with Megan Gonzalez, My Point TV, in Austin, Texas, in January 2022, and I told her about the story, and she got so excited, and she was all about it. And as I mentioned earlier, it was like a crossfade between me telling the story to Megan and standing on that stage, you know, and saying like, hey, everybody, this is our film. We're done, you know? So yeah, I think there was like a certain energy in this documentary that's kind of got everybody who wanted to support together, like kind of gravitated everybody into the same corner, and it went perfect. And we did the screening in April 21st at Austin Film Society with a lot of support from My Point TV and Megan and Trevor, who was the project manager for this project. And I don't know, it was just perfect. There's no other way to describe it. The amount of love was there is just insane and intense, and everybody was excited. And it was first time for me being in front of a big crowd since 2019. It was a little scary. I was a little tipsy, but you know, I think it just went the way it's supposed to be.
And it did. You know, I was at the premiere, and you really did capture Izzy, the raw, you know, her rawness of her music and just her personality. And as you were saying earlier, the fact that all of us go through trials and tribulations in our life, and to capture that, I also think the fact that it did come out this year was what kind of people needed to see after coming off of these 2 years of dealing with the pandemic, where you're right, everybody was, for me, it was difficult from a mental health point of view. It was rough. But to watch that, it almost did, you know, I know that she passed, but having that legacy live on, and to watch, you know, her, it kind of gave you some hope and made you feel good about, she went through a lot, but she still accomplished what she wanted to accomplish in the end. What did you, as the person constructing and putting together the story, what did you take away from that after it was all done? And, you know, for you and your relationship with Izzy, what is the impact, the lasting impact for you?
Yeah. I already have got goosebumps now because I remember in the last few days of Izzy's life, she said, "Don't stop. Don't ever stop. The universe will throw shit at you, but just don't take it personally, and continue. Just don't stop." So if you don't take it personally and you practice vulnerability, your life is perfect. And I think that's what I take out of Izzy is I learned how to be vulnerable. I learned how to tell my story and not being afraid of judgment. You know, just be open about it and say it, because I think the therapy starts when you start talking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I got that too from that, because I tend to withhold things. And so seeing somebody like Izzy just be out there and to share everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, just all of it, it is empowering to hear somebody else do that. And it does give you For me, when I see people like Izzy that do share so much like that, it does give you more of the your own sort of, well, I want to share my story and be able to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you doing the documentary and working with all the people that she knew and her friends and family, and it really was. It did capture her as a person. I didn't know her. I didn't even know her music, and then after my videographer and I, Sarah, watched it, we're like, oh my gosh, I wish that I had known her when she was,
Yeah.
you know, in the, here, but just having that to watch and then it getting you into her music, I feel like that's the other thing. What's the next step for you with this documentary? Because as you mentioned, the premiere was in April.
Mhm.
What would you like to see next for it? Is there anything else you want to do with it moving forward?
Yeah, of course. Honestly, I mean, there were so many people at the screening, but there were so many people who couldn't make it to the screening for health reasons or whatever reason that they have. And honestly, after the screening, I have received a whole lot of emails and requests. People wanted the link to kind of watch the documentary. But I don't know. I think we just need to. There's no plan has already put it in place, but we just need to think about some sort of distribution now, you know. And I'm sure Megan and My Point TV are working on something right now, trying to put it out there. And yeah, that's what I hope for. Just like a distribution for the documentary, so we can have it out there and everybody can see it, so we can share the story with the whole world, you know, and everybody can learn out of it, you know, whether it's the way of the documentary has been made or the story itself or probably any segments out of the documentary, not necessarily the whole thing, but there's a lot to be told in this documentary. And I think I made it to share it with everybody, and that's what I want to do.
And she was always herself, just
Exactly.
unapologetically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what you see as a documentarian, you know, or an anthropologist. You just want to tell people's story. You just want to be the fly on the wall when the character is willing to talk. You be like, okay, I'm just gonna stay here. You say whatever you want, and it's just gonna be beautiful and it's gonna be perfect. And we all saw the outcome in the documentary. It was just nothing but perfect.
And we have to give you credit too. We were talking about it, that you had so much footage to go through, to pare it down to what you got it to, and it felt like it was the right length. You know how sometimes there's things that you watch and it kind of goes on and on and on, and it just maybe it doesn't have a it doesn't have like a good ending, or it felt like you captured everything about her, and you kind of just feel like, wow, like by the end of it, it went by so fast, but at the same time, you had the perfect amount of time and perfect amount of footage that you shared. That must have been hard though, as a filmmaker, to figure out what to use, what not to use. How did you um what was the process for you when it came to that? Because I'm sure it was pretty tough.
It is. It is. Yeah. When you decide to make a story and you just want it to make it raw,
Mhm.
you don't want to polish it, it's always easier, you
Yeah.
know. uh, it was difficult. I have lived every single scene that Izzy has been through, and I think it was a great opportunity for me to live somebody else's life throughout filming the documentary, or even the editing, which was more intense for me than filming. Because for me, filming was just a bunch of interviews that I did, and I stayed with Izzy in the hospital for the last 6 months of her life in the hospital. And I was trying to capture like just a daily life, as you saw in the documentary, whether we're outside smoking a cigarette or having a meal in her room, or a nurse is checking on her. So this is kind of like the raw content that I wanted to capture out of the time that she spent in the hospital. But the reality is, in the editing room, I think I had a great opportunity to live somebody else's life. You know, that's another lifetime that I have lived.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, it was a lot of mixed feelings throughout the process to put this documentary together, and I had to consult, you know, a few people around Austin who know Izzy very well, and who knows how the documentary should go in a certain way. But honestly, like, after all, I didn't want to make like the traditional, you know, 3 act structures of a documentary. I think I tried to create like a multiple segments of her life, and not necessarily everything needs to be kind of linked together. But I don't know, like, it was just multiple segments of her life that came together, and the ending was just obvious. It's out
Yeah.
there, you know.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't think of anything else to end the story. Like
Yeah.
it's just ended itself, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the film, but for Izzy's for Izzy's music and Izzy's words of wisdom is just gonna live forever. It's not gonna go anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
it's all over the place now, and we're talking about it more, and more people are gonna know about it. And I hope this is gonna encourage more people to touch on mental illness, and to touch on stories that's kind of a little bit edgy and nobody want to talk about. You know, this is the reason why I wanted everybody to see it. So hopefully, we'll encourage more filmmakers to follow this kind of characters, and encourage more characters to be open and talk about themselves and their stories and their uh, trials and tribulations and what kind of griefs that you carry on here. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Now, outside of this, you have your own production kind of company, right? Omar
Mhm.
Musa Pictures. Tell us about what you do, like your day to day. I mean, you're involved in a lot of different
Yeah.
things in the media production world, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the day-to-day life, I smoke a lot of cigarettes, and I do a lot of phone calls, and I dance absolutely. But Omar Musa Picture is I love storytelling, you know, and I think I had created like a range of clients who appreciate the way I tell the story, and mostly in the tech industry and in the entrepreneurial world and in the coaching industry in Austin. So yeah, I reduced it all the way from the 30 seconds Instagram commercial into a 15 minutes short documentary in the landing page for a tech company or an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or even like a yoga instructor, you know? So that's basically what we do. We kind of create commercials, online contents, promotion materials, conferences, and what's not. So
Yeah.
yeah, we cover a wide range of production in Austin. Yeah, and things are picking up now. Hopefully, 2022. You know,
Yes.
we're getting back to normal. It feels weird to be in a studio with a whole crew and everybody's shooting and no mask is wearing. And I'm so happy. I'm so excited.
And the Izzy Cox documentary you did was the first full length that you directed, right?
Indeed,
Okay.
yes. Izzy Cox Fighting the Devil is my first full feature as a director and creator from scratch of the documentary.
Has that kind of given you the inspiration to do others in the future? Or I know it's a lot of work, obviously,
Yeah,
but
honestly, I mean, so you learn as you go, right? There's
yeah,
so many people have said like storytelling is something that you can't learn in
yeah,
school. So you go to film school and then they will tell you a lot of things, but when you're in the real world, it's like not completely different. You still carry the basic foundation of filmmaking, but every story is just unique. And this is like I don't think if Izzy's story if there's anything similar to Izzy's story
right,
at some point. So like the experience you get out of it, absolutely there's a lot of inspiration. But honestly, the financial struggle during making a documentary is the hardest. So if there's a conclusion now that I came out of production wise, I'm not gonna step into any other big production similar to Izzy Cox Fighting the Devil without the financial support for the documentary. If I don't have the budget at the front, there's no way you can start it. And it's getting more difficult now. You know, like I think the more we progress and we go forward in film production and the way how film has been made, it makes it a little harder without money. And I don't think I'm gonna do anything else without the financial support. You know, in a personal level. You know, but as a company, yeah, absolutely, we we take the clients who have like a real story that they want to tell and who have a real message that they want to share with the world. You know, yeah, yeah. So absolutely, I'm thinking about more documentaries as a director, as a creator, but I will think a little wisely about the financial aspects of it before I jump in and I decide to make it. This was something different. This was something that's just made for the love, and everybody was involved. Had no intention to finish this documentary, but to complete the message of love that Izzy wanted to share. You know, yeah. Nobody was seeking any financial outcome of it. We
right.
just wanted to finish it. Even Megan and My Point TV, they spent their own money to kind of put this in the theater and get everybody together, and it was a whole team working on that. And I know it's hard, But the next one for us is going to be a little bit easier because we will have the money for it. You know, yeah.
So you had mentioned to me earlier about, Omar Musa Pictures, but that could be changing in terms of name and that type of thing. So what's next for you on a personal level with
Yeah,
your business?
it's exciting. So I'm building a new TV channel on Raku TV, and it's going to be called Eeyore's Eye. And I think everybody's familiar with who is Eeyore, right? And Eeyore's Eye is the idea of just representing simplicity and representing a raw story. And we all know that Eeyore just was always about, I just want to be, you know. And that's what we're trying to do through Eeyore's Eye TV channel, just to capture the raw story and put it out there for the audience and the consumers to consume it, and then leave the judgment for the audience to kind of decide what outcome they want to take out of the content. But that's what's coming next. It's going to be, for personally, I'm going to still using my name as Omar Musa Picture, because I get hired as a director or producer on set, and I want to keep that as a personal. But when it comes to a bigger production and distribution, I really want to do that under Eeyore's Eye TV. And I think that's what next. And I think the channel will be ready in a couple of weeks.
Oh, great. So
Yeah.
we can watch that.
The channel will be ready in a couple of weeks. We're looking for more content. We're looking for more raw stories to put out there. So if you're watching this and you think you're a good storyteller, please reach out to this gentleman or to me, and we'll get your story out there.
Omar, if people want to get into contact with you, you're pretty easy to find on Google, everywhere
Totally.
like that, right?
Yes, please. If you Google the name Omar Musa Picture, or look me up on Facebook or any of the social media, please find me, reach out if you have some contents that you want to put out there. If you have an edgy story nobody want to take, if you have something personal that you're working on and you want some support, please reach out and we'll try to help you.
And we will put the link to Omar's information in this caption, and we will see you next time on The Merino Show.
How about we toast a shot of this one, because
Okay.
this is a bottle that I got from a dear friend who came all the way from Denver to for the screening.
Perfect.
And he surprised me with a nice bottle of whiskey. Take a little sip. Would you like a rock in it or anything? Like an ice cube or?
Let's go for it.
Yeah? Yeah, here.
Nice and neat, right? Are we sipping or are we taking the whole thing?
I think it's a shot.
So,
All right.
so David's behind the camera. I'm usually the camera person, but there's whiskey, so we're doing it. Omar.
Here's the bad influence when you get a great cinematographer.
That's right.
You can't hold him long behind the camera. At some point, you have to get in front of the
Yeah.
camera,
That's true.
right? And do it.
The camera work gets better the drunker you are.
There you go. Not always.
No.
Don't listen to that. No, this is after the shoot. We have done everything here. Don't touch any equipment while you're under influence of
I
alcohol.
disagree. But okay, ready?
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, that's smooth.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What time is it?
The Merino Show.